What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and today we have an extremely special guest. He hails from the Metro, aka Columbia, South Carolina, currently resides in Indianapolis. He's the host of the Sed Talk Podcast. He's a graduate of the University of South Carolina. He's a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Mr. Sed Warren in the building. Sed, what's good, bro?
Appreciate you having on, man. Thanks. I'm so excited to be on, and everything's good with me.
Cool. All good over here too. First off, when we talk about the Sed Talk podcast, this is one of my favorites. How did you come about getting that starting the Sed Talk podcast?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and oddly enough, as I'm kind of packing up, like I mentioned before we got started, I found a letter that the job I had when I moved to Indianapolis in 2018 notified me that there was going to be a reduction in my hours of work. It was a grant-based job in November of 2019. So November 18, 2019. Was my last full-time day. So I had to go part-time after that. And it was interesting because I talked with my brother for a long time. We joked about doing a podcast just because of our kind of takes on sports and culture and everything else. And I thought, I'm gonna have a lot of free time. Let me kind of just Google what does it take to start a podcast, right? So I did that. I looked up, what kind of equipment you need. Is there free software? What's the money type things? How do you, all the things you would do. And from there, I just kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this podcast mic. So the one I'm talking to you on, like $47 off of Amazon. Found some software, learned editing on the fly, and was just like, hey, I'm gonna commit to doing this every week, one topic a week. Initially, I was going to do like 15 minutes. I was like, just a quick, easy thing for people to listen to on the way to work, while they're getting ready for work, on the way home. I didn't want to I guess bore people
Right.
initially. So yeah. But it went from there. And then as people started to listen more and give me feedback, I got more and more excited about it each week. And the ideas just started flowing. I'm an ideas person. And the more I did it, the more I dived into it, the more feedback I got, and the more invested I became into the process. And yeah, it just became a secondary thing. It was fun. It was never a chore. Even with like doing the edit sometime late and posting the next day, it was just always so rewarding to get it posted and then look at the like listen count and put it out there. So yeah, it started because I needed something to do, and then once I got to do back to a full-time job, it just became a secondary thing that I enjoyed. So
Super dope. And I think I've found you through, we have a mutual friend in Clara.
yep.
She's the Great Black Hype on IG.
Yep.
And like I clicked on your page and I saw your links, and then I saw you had a podcast. And for some reason, I was always wanting somebody to do a podcast series that was South Carolina centric. And lo and behold, you had the content that I was looking for. And the fact that you divided it up in all four regions. For those that don't know, South Carolina consists of four regions. It's 3 area codes, but it's 4 regions. It's the upstate, which is the 864. It's the Midlands, which is the 803. And then in the 843, where I'm at, in the low country, you have the low country, and you also have the PD region, which is like the Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, like in that area. And each episode, you covered the different territories of the state of South Carolina. And you had people on your podcast that you talked to on each episode that were from those areas. And just hearing the similarities and the differences between each region, it was such a fascinating listen. I still go back and listen to those episodes, especially the 843 episodes. Shout out to Amethyst.
Yeah.
And hearing them break out Nagichi, I was like, and you brought up Mr. Taylor, I was like, that's my dog.
Yeah.
He be knowing.
Yeah, man, I tell you, going to USC was an experience. And fun fact, a lot of people don't know, but I started college at the University of Alabama in
Really?
2007. Yep, my freshman
Wow.
year, I started college at the University of Alabama. I was down in Tuscaloosa. It was Nick Saban's first year coaching. It was a lot of hype. Alabama is interesting too. I related a little bit to South Carolina because you got Huntsville, there's Tuscaloosa, you got Birmingham, you got what's some of the other cities? Where was my best friend was from um southern part of Alabama, Mobile. I think I said Montgomery. So there's just so many other spaces. Obviously, Auburn area too, but there's so many spaces there too. So when you talk about like the Geechee dialect and accent for South Carolina, I noticed kind of looking back that folks from various areas of Alabama had different like ways they talk too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Huntsville folks, I felt like talked a little bit more out the side of their mouth versus like people from like Montgomery and stuff like that. That was different. So yeah, like the Charleston episode was fun just because I knew so many people from Charleston at USC. Like you mentioned, I went to the University of South Carolina, and like I feel like a lot of Charleston people made that trek to go to USC, and I had a lot of people to choose from. But I wanted a diverse crowd, similar in age, but not too far apart too as well, so we could get some different perspectives. Amethyst is really dope. I love what she's doing with the food scene down there. She's taking off. So shout out to her,
No
and
doubt.
just excited to see her growth in that space. And I had one of my frat brothers on there too as well. So it was like a really fun episode because there's so much history connected, not just from South Carolina, but to the United States through Charleston, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was originally one of the largest slave ports, and outside of that, just one of the largest ports that was exporting and importing goods to the United States. So South Carolina history is American history, if you wanna put it that way. I mean, you can trace a lot of things back to South Carolina when we talk about American history.
100%. And if you check out his podcast, it's Sed Talk, as in TED Talk.
Yeah.
Make sure you like, download, and
Yeah.
subscribe. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here. We're going to talk us a little baseball. So,
Yeah.
what were some of your earliest baseball memories?
Um, I think like a lot of us, man, like, and you probably grew up the same, like playing in the backyard, right? Stick ball, a plastic bat and tennis ball, you know what I mean? Like that was probably the earliest that I can remember. And I think the true first memory, I think, is going back to playing catch with my dad and brother in the backyard. And I was like at least 4 or 5 years old. I hadn't started T-ball yet, but I was kind of learning to catch. And I had this little plastic glove going and everything. And I hadn't got my hand-eye coordination down just yet, and my dad threw one, and I didn't look it all the way in, and it smacked me dead in the nose,
Mm.
bloody nose, and everything. And I was just telling my fiance earlier, I was like, I think that's a pivotal moment for kids is like getting hit with the baseball because either you're like, all right, I got hit, I'm still alive, I'm gonna keep playing, or I got hit, this is terrible, and I never want to play again.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that plus like playing in the backyard, playing with my best friends slash cousins down the street and watching baseball. My parents were big sports fans, so part of our family time in the evening, outside of like watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, was watching baseball on TV. So and it always stuck with me too as well. And I think the era that I grew up in watching baseball initially was fantastic too. I'm excited about this current one too, but yeah, I think those are my earliest ones.
Dope. So, what got you into the Atlanta Braves?
Yeah, so if you've ever watched a Braves broadcast on TV, and if you're the original watcher, you know that it was on TBS, uh,
Yep.
and sometimes on TNT every now and then, but for mostly it was TBS, Turner Broadcasting System, and that's based out of Atlanta. And they always said this is Braves country, right? And they didn't just talk about Georgia; they talked about the surrounding areas because there's no professional baseball team in South Carolina, North Carolina. There's two down in Florida, but even there's a large contingency of Braves fans in the area because those are newer franchise. I think the Rays just celebrated 25 years recently. 25 years, I think, within the last couple of years of being a franchise. And then the Marlins are, maybe approaching 30 years as a franchise too, as well. So like those are relatively new, right? So if you watch baseball or a little bit older, you grew up watching the Braves, right? Yeah. And then what made it stick was my first trip to Atlanta in the summer. I'll never forget it because the Olympic Games, so they had just won the World Series in 95. 1996 was my first trip to Atlanta for a baseball game. It was in the summer. They played the Montreal Expos. Mark Wohlers was pitching that night. They were giving away the tomahawks with like the World Series championship like signage on it, and it was at Fulton County Stadium the last year before they moved to Turner Field. And that experience was so much fun, like staying in the hotel by the not too far from the stadium, with my family, going to the game, watching. And from that point on, we never missed I think from 1996 to about 2010, 2011, we went to a game every summer. It was like our family trip.
Nice.
So, I mean, I saw a lot of teams play, a lot of famous players and a lot of people from other teams too play too. And, proud to say that I've been to all the Atlanta stadiums too that have been built. So Fulton County, Turner Field, and now Truist Park. I went there in 2021.
Nice. So what were some of your favorite memories tying into what you just said? What were some of your favorite memories as a Braves fan? Or favorite, let's say favorite and least favorite.
Okay. So I'll start with the favorite because the least may get me a little hyped up. But the favorite, I think, goes beyond just the game. It was the culture of Atlanta. It was seeing so many Black people invested in the sport too, as well. It was the underground was popping in Atlanta. It was the culture that was being tied to it in hip hop. It was the success of the team, Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones, Andres Galarraga, Fred McGriff, you know what I'm saying? David, just like those guys from the early 90s like were stood out, you know what I mean? Mark Wallers, Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, John Smoltz. Like I remember those guys vividly. And then there's a lot of other great players in between over the course of my fandom, Rafael Furcal, Andrelton Simmons, Andres Galarraga. I remember when the Upton twins came recently within the last 10 years. Obviously Brian McCann was a personal favorite too. He was a phenomenal catcher and player. I hate that I'm glad he left because he eventually got to like the World Series, and then I just hate he wasn't with us, right? Because he was such a long time and a favorite player for a lot of people. I'm excited they're retiring Andrew's jersey. That was my first player that I idolized in terms of Braves fandom. I had his baseball jersey, the gray away jersey with 25 Jones on the back. I think I got it as a birthday gift. So I think those trips to the stadium and then the food can't beat baseball food.
You're right.
No professional sports does game food like baseball. Like it's top to bottom. It's amazing.
I agree.
So I think all those are definitely, and then again, sitting at home, summertime, school's out. And if I wasn't outside or nobody was around, it's 7:00, 7:30, families in front of the TV, we're eating dinner and we're watching Braves baseball. Like that is nostalgic for me. You know what I mean? You can hear it outside, you know what I'm saying, and everything. And if you know what I mean by hearing outside, if you're from the South, right? All the bugs and everything else is
going.
So I think all those things are tied in. Least favorite, there's two of them, right? Because I pointed this out again, just kind of doing my homework for the questions that you sent me. 2005, and tell me if you remember this. 2005 NLDS versus Houston, right? Andrew Jones smacks one to the fence, right? And if you watch baseball, of course, there's a yellow line that goes at the top of the fence. They basically said it wasn't a home run when it was, and it killed us that game because we weren't able to play any more runs after that, and ended up losing the NLDS to Houston, and they went on to the NLCS. And I was just like, we got robbed right there, because that was like one of our best opportunities early on to make the World Series. I mean, we had a solid team that year. So that one still haunts me. And I'm just like, they could have gave us that. And it was in Houston when they had that random like hump at Minute
Maid Park. I do remember that.
Yeah, and center, thinking that was an advantage, which is interesting enough, because at Northeast we had this huge hill in left field that like was tough to navigate for opposing outfielders, and I played outfield, so we practiced on how to take angles up the field if something was up there, and if you hit it up there, you're probably going to get at least a double out of it. So
okay.
But yeah, and then the other one was just a personal kind of vendetta against the Mets and David Wright when he won. I want to say it was MVP or got a Gold Glove that year for third base for the NL, when it should have went to Chipper, because David Wright led the league in errors that year. And I'm like, how do you give a Gold Glove to a guy who leads the league in errors? Like,
yeah, you're right.
Chipper was, yeah. Made no sense. So I was just kind of like, how do you not give it to literally one of the best third basemen in the game who has ever played, right? So I think those are bittersweet. Last year was tough in terms of fandom, because I was like, here we go. Like, we won in 2021. Pretty much same team coming back. You know what I'm saying? Made some amazing moves, of course. It did hurt to not have Ozzy for part of it through injury, but still I felt like we were capable with our 100+ wins to get past where we were. But unfortunately that year, it was not last year was not the year of good records, because the Padres the Dodgers got bounced. We got bounced. A lot of 100-win teams got bounced early. So 87-win Phillies made it to the
I was about to say, because that's who the Braves lost to in the divisional round, right?
Yeah,
man.
87-win Phillies, and they just grinded it out. And that's the beautiful thing about baseball, is like, you could have the 500 season, but come postseason time, you just got to win 3 games. You know what I mean? And at some point in time of your season, you put together a win streak of 3, 4, or 5 games, and that's essentially what you got to do in the postseason. And so, yeah.
All right. So I know you mentioned a few of the Braves players. Who were some of your favorites out of those Braves players?
Yeah, so all-time favorite is Andrew Jones. I just love the way he played. When I started playing baseball, I was in the outfield, and I just admired his ability to run down fly balls, track fly balls. His arm strength was phenomenal. His athleticism was off the charts. If you ask any little league coach or other coaches, his cavalier approach to catching fly balls was probably worrisome. And if you're listening and you haven't, and you don't know about Andrew Jones, just go to YouTube, type in Andrew Jones, Andrew with a U, so ANDRUW Jones, and his highlights will come up, and you'll see how he catches fly balls, and he does these like very casual, very semi-lazy fly ball catches, and you're just like, every time you're like, please God, don't drop it. And at one time he did, and like Bobby Cox benched him. So I will say Bobby Cox was a favorite too as well. I mean, longtime manager for the Braves. And I mean, just loved his players, loved by his players, and it was always fun to see him get thrown out when he was gonna cuss out one of the umpires.
Yeah.
But definitely Andrew was one of my favorites. Chipper Jones being the other. Those two guys were probably the staple of my fandom for a long time. The year Andrew got traded to I think he went to the Yankees afterwards. It was funny because he hit like 50 something home runs the year before his contract year, which I guess at that time, the following year, the Braves just couldn't justify like signing him back to another contract. So, but Chipper stayed out, and I love that, got to see him. Fred McGriff, Andres Galarraga, some favorites. Javi Lopez.
Oh man, I forgot about him.
Yeah, Javi was definitely a favorite. Furcal was definitely a favorite. Just a short in stature, but super strong. Had a cannon of an arm. Almost didn't matter where he was on the field. He could make this throw to make the play. So he's definitely one of my favorites. Brian McCann, loved watching him. Who else? I think those are probably some top ones. Andrelton was definitely another one that I enjoyed watching. Another young athletic shortstop. And then recently, man, I mean, I love this young team that we have. I love Michael Harris.
Yes.
I love and I love his story. Georgia kid, came up playing and just his grind to get here too, man. And I love that the Braves invested him, like saw the talent and didn't waste time.
Yeah.
Like, boom, we're gonna lock you up. 8 years, 72 million. Absolutely. Here you go. Like, absolutely. Young homegrown talent. And I think our farm system has been amazing over so many years. But Michael Harris is exciting to watch. Ronald Acuna, love him. Ozzy. I really enjoyed Dansby too, as well, defensively. His hitting got better, but defensively he was amazing. And he's from played at Vanderbilt, and that's a program that is like breeding talent. You know what I mean? And while I was in school when Carolina won our 2 national championships in baseball, I've always appreciated Vandy because their coach has made a conscious effort to recruit Black players to his team, and not just recruit them, but see them play and start. And you can tell the difference, right? Those guys come up. So you got Tony Kemp, you got David Price, you got Kumar Rocker, who's now with the Rangers.
Yes, sir.
That guy is, man, he's gonna be so nice. I cannot. And then so they got Jack Leiter too,
yes,
as well. So that's an amazing 1-2, right?
Yes.
A friend of mine feels like Jack is not gonna. He's a Rangers fan, and he doesn't feel like Jack is gonna have the biggest splash, but he's really excited about Kumar, and I am too. But just Kumar's command of his pitches and what he was and how he was carving people up in college, I was just like, yeah, this guy's about to be a nasty pro.
Yeah.
So yeah, I a lot of favorite players, and a lot of great memories too, watching those guys too as well. But the current team I'm really excited about, again, just young talent that I think is really gonna stay with the team. And I liked how they've like invested in this young talent too as well. Like each year we're gonna keep coming back with good talent, even on the pitching staff too as well.
Nice. And who was some of your favorite non-Braves players? It can be past and present.
Past and present. Okay, so past, you have to go with the GOAT, with the greatest swing ever, and that's Ken Griffey Jr. I had his cleats freshman year of high school. Blue and black swingman cleats. I got several pairs of his shoes too as well. Just to watch him was, I mean, I look forward to watching his highlights on SportsCenter every day. I was waiting for it during baseball season. And it's unfortunate that injury took over, because he easily would have broke the home run record. At the time, fastest player to 400 home runs. I mean, he was crushing it. And then I don't know if you saw it recently, but he took BP as the
I did see that
hitting coach for Team USA. Was still putting it out there. 50 years old and still putting it out there. Like, yeah. And I think for me, just watching him was his swing was almost effortless, but had so much power. Other favorites, I would say I'll go to a current one. Shohei Ohtani is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
I love his approach at the plate. when he first started, he had this big leg kick. And, you started to see this as a new trend in terms of timing and hitting. So I think your Bryce Harper and a few other folks that got this big leg kick, but it was kind of messing him up. And he went from this leg kick to more of like I don't want to call it a hitch, but like a slight turn of his foot, right, to kind of keep his weight back, and then and timing, and then he just like explodes through the ball, right? And he's not a small guy, right? He's like 6'3" or whatever. And I feel like with that approach, he's able to really track and see the ball, either sit on the fastball and crush it, or be patient and adjust to the curveball and other off-speed pitches as well. So he's just really exciting. Mike Trout, just pure power right there too, right? Yeah. But yeah, I'll tell you, and I'll go back to some previous players. I'm also excited about the wave of just young Black players too in the league. Really excited to see more of us on the mound. Tristan McKenzie for the Guardians. Man, excited to see him grow and grow again. Kumar Rocker, can't wait till he's in the show. Hunter Green, I followed his whole trajectory, as a number one, and now he's in the league. Last year he got reps. I actually saw him pitch live. I went to a game in Cincinnati, which we talked about a little bit before we got started. It was the Reds and the Cardinals, and he was on the bump. And I mean, he can run it up 102. And I was close, and still in a blink of eye was like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to see him. I think this year he's going to have more command of his pitches and have a better, record overall. Past other players, Barry Bonds, of course, watching him chase the home run record. Mark McGwire and Sammy, those guys were exciting.
Oh yeah,
to watch. There was just so many, honestly, to pick from. Ichiro, Manny Ramirez, Derek Jeter, what's my guy, Alex Rodriguez. These, A-Rod was kind of like that, one of those big money superstars that started to get the huge contracts that we see today, when he went from Seattle to the Rangers. And again, just power, big power too as well. I think Jeter was just so clutch that like there was no moment too big for him, and he didn't necessarily you could literally put him anywhere in the lineup. If you wanted him to lead off, he could get on. If you wanted him to be clean up and not necessarily going to hit a 400-foot bomb, but he'll get you a line drive to the gap that's going to drive in 2 or 3 runs, or whoever's on base, right? So overall, there was no place in the lineup that like he wasn't going to be efficient. And I feel like that's the cool thing about baseball, is like everybody sees the home runs, that's the exciting part, but good players can just slap it anywhere. I think about like Juan Pierre, you know what I mean?
Oh man, you took me back with that one.
Speedster, but like I'm a drag bunt, I'm a just slap one to second, or a little blooper, I might get a double out of that. I can see Curtis Granderson. That's the other guy I was thinking about.
Grandy man.
Yeah, Curtis Granderson. Pitchers wise too, Verlander. Max Scherzer is probably one of my favorite pitchers currently. Just dominant. Just dominant. And it's rare where I see him not have a good outing when he's on the mound. And so Clayton Kershaw finally got over that hump, because he was lights out in regular season, and then when it came to the postseason, just couldn't. Just couldn't get it done. So it was interesting, and I'm glad that he was able to get over the hump. So speaking of Dodgers, Mookie Betts,
sir.
Mookie is so fun to watch. Again, just a talented guy, amazing outfielder, and can just, again, you can put him anywhere in the outfield. Honestly, he can play, but has a great arm too as well. So Tim Anderson is probably another, and I'm glad to see us again in the infield, because that is the kind of the space where a lot of times they didn't think we could play, right? That and pitcher. The first place they put us is to the outfield because these guys are fast, they can cover the outfield. Well, granted, that might be the case, but also we can play the infield too when we can pitch. So I like seeing us as Black players in these as middle infielder spots too. Manny Machado is another one, just like his overall swag and confidence. Great player as well. Excited to see Fernando Tatis get another full season as well. I mentioned before, Ronald Acuna, Ozzy Albies are some favorites too as well.
Dope. And speaking of Black infielders, man, I gotta being a Rangers fan, I gotta show some bias towards my dog Marcus Semien.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good pickup for them.
Yeah,
definitely a good pickup.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So
the Rangers have made some moves.
They have, just like I said on the previous episode. The guy I was talking with was a Mariners fan, and we were talking about favorite players. He was asking me about the Rangers, and I was like, dude, I borderline damn near caught the Holy Ghost at work when I got the news that we got Jacob deGrom. Oh my God.
Yes.
If I could backflip, I would have done them in succession at work, and I wouldn't care.
Absolutely.
Like our weaknesses has the potential to become a strength. So I know prior to us recording, you showed me a picture of a commemorative seat that you got from Busch Stadium. So it brings me to my next topic. What were some of the MLB stadiums that you visited?
Yeah, so I'm on a quest of visiting all 30. So I mean, the cool thing being in Indiana, I'm centrally located to a lot of and again, if you're a fan, you'll recognize that the East Coast and Midwest are the nexus of MLB teams. There's a ton of them, right? You got 2 in Ohio, 2 in Illinois, you know what I mean? So the Reds and Cleveland are close by. So I'll start with Atlanta was my first one, Fulton County Stadium, 1996. And then the following year, went to games in Turner Field, and then 2021 I got to Truist Park to see the Braves as well. So I've been to all 3, and I think they were all just amazing stadiums. So we'll count that. I mean, that's 3 separate stadiums with one team. So so I've seen the Braves. Last summer I had the chance to go to Wrigley, which was nice. Sat in the outfield, great time. They played the Padres. Actually got absolutely crushed by the Padres. Tried to make a late comeback, but it was too steep a climb. So Wrigley is an interesting space because you see it and then it's small. It feels and I can see why they call it the friendly confines, just because of the shape of it, and it just feels relatively small compared to other parks. They don't have kind of a lot of those upper decks that you see in parks. So, and then like the outfield is kind of just bleacher seats and everything else. So more of your traditional type stadium. Got to Fenway in July of last year, saw him play the Rays, and that was a phenomenal experience. It was a Tuesday night, and it was 37, almost 40, however many people fit in Fenway. It was packed out. On a Tuesday night in the summer. Like they were just like, we're in here. And even the vibe around the stadium is super dope. Like there was like a band and a cover band and everything out there, and there's food vendors and stuff like that. So once you kind of get closer to the stadium, all that stuff is around. And if you want to, buy a drink or eat, you can take that into your seat, and then of course buy, other food and stuff like that too as well. Fenway is actually a neighborhood in Boston. I found this out because of a coworker who is from the area and a big Red Sox fan. So Fenway is actually a neighborhood. And it's a nice little space too as well, because there's some other things surrounding. So got to Fenway. Citi Field, also in 2021, August 2021, I saw them play the Mets and Dodgers, which was a phenomenal experience because these are 2 cities, East Coast, West Coast. They're big on their baseball teams. So like the Dodger fans were like heavy there because you're in New York, right? It's a major
Yeah.
city, so you're going to get people from all over the country. So there's probably a lot of California folks working in New York and vice versa. So it was a great game. It actually went into extra innings. The Dodgers didn't walk it off, obviously, because they're away, but hit a go-ahead home run in the top of the 10th to quiet the Mets fans, and then shut them out in the bottom of the 10th to win it. But the trash talk between them was just phenomenal, and just the excitement of the New York fans at everything was phenomenal. So it was good to see. So baseball in New York and Boston are a different level. So Atlanta, Mets, so the Braves, Mets, Red Sox, Cardinals, excuse me, Cubs. The Cardinals is the other one. So I have been to Busch Stadium. I've actually been there twice now. First time in 2018, and then I went to opening day last year, which was a
Okay.
lot of fun.
Cool.
Opening day in St. Louis is a whole thing. Like, people are at work in their Cardinals gear, they're leaving early because it's a midday game at like 2 o'clock. So just count on no productivity for that day. And honestly, if you're a business owner and you got employees, just you should do like a trip to the game as a team building exercise or whatever, because it's just that great of an experience. And it's one of my favorites, actually, visually, to see all the red. Like, some stadiums you go to, you'll see opposing fans or whatever, and you'll see their colors, but that red is just, it's a sea of red all over,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful sight. um I've also been to Cincinnati, so Great American Ballpark. Caught a Friday evening game, and was in downtown Cincinnati, and it's cool to see it off the water as well. And yeah, so where else? I think I've hit about 7 or 8. I think I've done. So I think I'm make sure I'm not missing any. Um, yeah, I think that's all of them that I've been to. Oh, the Nationals Park. I've been to the Nationals Park as well. Um, that one is very nice. So if you've ever been to DC, it's on the Navy Yard, and it overlooks the Navy Yard, and it's really dope. I think the cool thing about it is they've developed it so much more. I went in 2014, maybe a year or two, or a couple years after they developed it, and it was nice to see all the um, stuff like being built up too as well. I have the ballpark app, so I've kind of cataloged my stadium travels on there too. So I'm just trying to see if I can pull this up and make sure I didn't miss anything,
Okay.
uh, any of my stadiums. But yeah, if you got another question, we can keep rolling.
Oh, that was the last baseball question that I had.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Um, yeah, I think I covered all the ones I've been to. Let me see. Here we go. Let's see. So Wrigley Field, Great American Ballpark, City Field, Truist Park, of course, Camden Yards. That was the other one I was missing.
Oh, nice. That's on
Yeah,
my
so
list.
yeah, Camden Yards is really nice. So I hit. Let me see. 2021, I did um three. I did three in 2021, and I did three new ones last year. So Fenway, um, Great American, and Wrigley. And then 21, I did City, Truist Park for the first time, and then Camden Yards. And then Busch was 2018 for the first time, and then Nationals Park was 2014. So
Man, that's a nice list right there.
yeah. So I think this year I want to go to the South Side, see the White Sox, um, make it to Cleveland, see the Guardians, and maybe Milwaukee. Try to get there.
Cool.
Those are all relatively short drives, so try to make it out to one of those.
Yeah, you got more under your belt than me. Because I got Atlanta, got the Rangers, went to a Cardinals game, and Tampa.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, Tampa. God, Tampa. It was like watching a baseball game in a warehouse.
Really?
Yeah. It just had a real sterile feel to it.
Yeah.
But
There's they want to build. I think they want to build a new park for them.
yeah.
There's some back and forth. I don't know if you saw this a while back, a couple of years ago, maybe just before COVID, but the owner, the son of the former owner of the Montreal Expos, was proposing that the Rays play half their games in Tampa and the other half in Montreal because he wants to bring the Expos back to Montreal as a franchise.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah, it was an interesting. I'm gonna see if I can find an article and email it to you. But like, it
Okay.
was an interesting proposal that he had too, because I think it was to lure them to Montreal, and really like, hey, we'll give you this brand new stadium and everything else, and you'll have, great fans, But the Expos won back in the '90s, so, um, yeah, but it's interesting to see, but yeah, Tampa is on my list too. I think I need to get out to the West Coast. Like that's
Yeah.
after
Same.
kind of this year, I really want to get to the West Coast, and I think Petco is at the top of my list, and then Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle's definitely on my list too. So now we're going to get into the 5 question segment of the program. So the
All right,
first and last question are the same question I ask every guest I have on here, and questions 2 through 4 will be 100% random. So
all right.
question number 1: what were the ideal items on said school lunch tray?
Ideal items. That square pizza that was undefeated with the
Mm-hmm.
sausage. It didn't matter what day. Some good, and it's interesting enough. I know a lot of people who drank milk in like school, but now hate it. I still love milk, but
Yeah.
we had a lot of different flavors. So that like strawberry milk used to slap, or that like vanilla milk. It was amazing. That some kind of fruit. I love fruit. Pineapple, peaches, something like that. A fruit cup or something like that was always gonna hit. And then for breakfast, like they used to have those like breakfast corn dog things, which was like a piece of sausage and like a
Yes.
pancake. Yeah, that was really good. And then my elementary school actually used to serve honey buns. They
Really?
were so good. Warm honey buns. They were like 50 cents. Yeah, we used to go and just run up a tab at
Honey
at the
buns
lunch.
and strawberry milk. Boy, I clearly was in the wrong school district.
Yeah, it
Man.
was good. It was good.
Question number 2: Zestos or Lizard's Thicket?
So those are two South Carolina staples. There used to be a Zestos down the street from my high school, but I'm gonna go with Lizard's Thicket. And in fact, I'm mad I didn't get any before I came back to Indy. So every time I go home, I make sure I eat at places that I cannot eat here. So Bojangles is one because there's no Bojangles up here. Closest Bojangles is probably 3 hours away in Lexington, Kentucky. Um, and then definitely Lizard's Thicket. But yeah, Lizard's Thicket is my go-to.
All right. Question number 3. We're gonna keep it in the Carolinas. Crank Dat Roy or Nasty Song?
Oh, all right. As a man, that's hard. I got to go with Crank Dat Roy because here's the thing, because you can even do the Roy to the Fabo and Jeezy,
Geeked up.
spaceships on Bankhead,
Yeah.
so like I got to go with the Roy. Like that joint is fine, but I love how Nasty Song has made a comeback due to social media. And there's people here and other places that be like, "Oh man, it's such a dope song," and I'd be like, "Man, we used to rock to this in undergrad." I was like the Lil Ru, he made it to 106 in Park. He's from
Yep.
Columbia. I believe he went to Benedict too, right?
Oh, really?
I think so. I think he was either at Benedict. That's what I heard. I think he did go to Benedict for a while. I don't know if he
Okay.
stayed or whatever, but I think he's a product of Benedict. Somebody could fact check me on that, but yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Roy and then Nasty Song number 2 for sure.
Okay. Question number 4: what was your worst flight experience?
Worst flight experience. Actually, recently I flew to New York. Was one of them. The just turbulence of it was pretty scary. We took a lot of dips because
Mm.
it was super windy. The other one was in Chicago, and actually the weekend I went to see last summer was when I went to see the Cubs. I was there for work, and my job, bought tickets for our group to go see the Cubs. But I was going to my nephew's third birthday party in DC, so I was catching a flight from Chicago to Maryland, and I got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. My flight was supposed to leave at 2 o'clock, so I could get there by like 6 that day, and be there, but like got delayed, got delayed, got delayed. It delayed all the way to about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then
Oh my
eventually it just
God.
canceled. Yeah. So I was in the airport. No, my flight was supposed to leave at 2. I was like at the airport by like 12:30 because
Oh
Chicago's
man.
airport is so busy. So I was in that joint for a solid 12 hours, just delay, 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 delay. So a bunch of delays. And then I go to the counter. And I'm like, yo, I gotta get here by the earliest by like 6 o'clock. Whatever. It's my nephew's third birthday. I'm not trying to miss it. Everything else. He was like, the quickest I can get you there is by like 6:37. But it's into Dulles, and Dulles is way into Virginia. And my brother, who I was going to see with my nephew and sister-in-law, like he's all the way in Maryland. So like that's like a solid hour and a half away from him. So I had to
Oh wow.
took the plane. So they had to like book me for the next day, gave me a hotel voucher, food voucher, taxi voucher to and from the airport. I took every possible mode of transportation, I think, besides like a scooter that weekend. I took a train to the Chicago airport, then an Uber. I was on a bus from the Dulles airport to the train station, train all the way to Maryland. It was probably the worst experience for me because there was
My
just so many
goodness.
delays. Yeah. So 12 hours in the airport just to not go anywhere. So
Man, that sucks. Man.
absolutely.
Question number 5. What was the last thing that made you laugh uncontrollably?
Probably some random joke or text message or meme sent that my fiance sent. Like we send each other random stuff all the time, and it's just a constant. We don't take anything seriously, so everything everything's a joke with us, and I truly appreciate it. So
Yeah, that's a good
um,
thing.
I think something she sent me has just been, one of those things. So yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. So we're at the segment now where you have the floor to plug or promote anything. So floor is yours.
Cool. Well, I want to encourage everybody to listen to this podcast. It's been really exciting too. And one thing I want to do is I want to grow my network of Black baseball fans because I know we're out there. And there's a lot of people in the space. Um, if you want to find people to support, check out Stilo Sports. It's a Black owned baseball paraphernalia company. He does gloves and bats, and he's broke into the Major League Baseball. Listen to the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast.
Yes.
That's a phenomenal podcast. You can check out my old episodes as well of Sed Talk, and we're on Apple and Spotify and everything else. Um, and I want to encourage people to watch baseball. I think it's a game of failures, but it teaches you so much. It's a game of being resilient, and I think, especially as people in general, but as Black people, we have to be resilient. And this game taught me how to do that, how to bounce back, how to make adjustments on the fly, and how to just see things, see the field and be patient. You know what I mean? And every day is literally like an at bat. You're gonna see something different. You know what I mean?
That's a bar right there, man. Every day is an at bat.
Yeah. And if you go 0 for 4 one day, You know what I'm saying? You may go 4 for 4 the next day. So those days that you just, I mean, nothing goes right. Your car didn't start. You was late to work. You forgot to send off that presentation, or your presentation was just not as good as you wanted it to because you couldn't sleep or whatever. That's your 0 for 4 day. But the great thing is that you're going to be back in the lineup the next day, and you have an opportunity to go 4 for 4 and do just as good the following day. So I've tried to take that into my own work and really try to apply those things to my everyday life, work life, because I've had challenges in this own job where days just didn't go well. Whether it was on something I didn't do or I forgot to do, or somebody I was working with, we kind of butted heads or something like that. But the next day I said, I can do better. So yeah, watch baseball, man. I promise you it's a lot of fun. I know it can be slow. I know it can be hard to understand, but please watch, and I promise you you'll fall in love with it. So
And
yeah.
and where can the people find you online?
If you want to follow me, I just post random stuff. I'm usually posting and reposting baseball stuff now because it's baseball season. So if you want to follow me at Sed_Warren, that's Instagram and that's Twitter too as well. My links to my podcast are still in those bios, and in my podcast page is at Sed Talk as well. So you will find it just like that. So a lot of good episodes on there. We covered college football, culture, women's health, men's health, fatherhood. The South Carolina series is one of my favorites, of course. Music, cartoons. So we really tried to be what we call like an audio think tank. And we wanted to approach a lot of topics with a twist, you know. One of the topics that we talked about, like, how do you get more Black people to watch NASCAR? So we we brought up statistics, and then we also looked at what an approach would be like to really change it up and infuse hip hop culture into NASCAR. So those are just the things we talked about. So if you want something to listen to on your way to work or next road trip, check us out. But definitely listen to this podcast too as well. So yeah, man, I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, pleasure was all mine, sir. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to the Sed Talk Podcast. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Both podcasts are available on all streaming platforms. And if you've made it this far, I greatly appreciate you as a listener. And for Sed and myself, this has been another episode of At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. And until then, till next time, y'all be good. 3 strikes.